My name is Sarah Paulim.
My name's Joyce.
My name is Wendy.
My name is Patricia.
My name is Violet.
So my name is J.R. Guo.
My name is Kaylin.
My name is Tan Thuy.
My name is Sambal.
Because I believe everyone has the capacity to recover. My name is Wendy, and I'm a survivor of complex trauma. I'm diagnosed with depression and anxiety. I have been on medication for almost 10 years. I was first diagnosed with mental illness in my second year of college at age 20. For the past 10 years, I worked very hard towards recovery through taking prescribed medication, going to therapy, building a support network, and educating myself. As I'm approaching 30 this year, I can proudly say that I beat my mental illnesses. I'm at a good place in life where I'm pursuing a career I'm passionate about, and I'm in a healthy, stable relationship. I'm sharing my story because I believe everyone has the capacity to recover under the right circumstances. As someone who survived through the depths of darkness, I can attest to humans' ability to not only heal, but also thrive under extreme conditions. In order to talk about my mental illness, I would have to go back to my grandparents' generation, because my mental illnesses are a result of intergenerational trauma that runs in my family. Both of my grandparents have been through very turbulent times in history. They survived key historical events from a Great Leap to the Cultural Revolution in China. My grandmother in particular witnessed her whole village being wiped out by starvation. She was only 11 years old at the time, but vividly remembers the sight and smell of dead corpse to this day. The amount of horror she's experienced left her with severe trauma on her mind and spirit. As a result, my grandparents developed intense anger, violent behavior, and emotional instability. And her children, which are my mom, aunt, and uncle, all display the same symptoms. I later learned that the term that describes their condition is called borderline personality disorder. And for my dad's side of the family, violence was also a common theme. My dad grew up watching his mom being beaten by his dad. As a result, my dad grew up to be violent, intimidating, and physically aggressive. During my very first few years of life, my earliest memories were my parents fighting, screaming, and breaking things around the house. When I was 6, my dad left China to go to the US, and my mom and I stayed behind. We eventually joined my dad in the US when I was 9. But once reunited, the violence resumed and grew worse. After my younger brother was born and diagnosed with autism, my dad began to beat me as well. When I was 16, my dad left our family. I was relieved that I no longer had to fear for my life, but that also meant that the burden of supporting the family fell on my mom and I. To survive, my mom went to work as a waitress over 60 hours a week, and I took up the responsibility of caring for my brother with autism. While I was in high school, I took care of my baby brother, cooked, cleaned, and put him to sleep every night, who was only 3 years old at the time. And my mom, who suffers from borderline personality disorder, didn't know how to deal with the stress she was facing and unleashed them onto me. At that time, I felt powerless against her anger, and I felt hopeless, helpless against the misfortunes and tragedies in my life. I believed that I was broken, worthless, defective, and unloved. I didn't think that there's love and warmth in the world. It was the worst period of my life, and it felt never ending. I thought things would get better once I left for college, but I underestimated the impact of complex trauma. In my second year of college, I began to feel extremely sad and anxious. But I didn't know that I was suffering from mental illness. As someone who grew up in a violent and unstable household, fear and sadness were the norm. I also didn't tell anyone about it because I felt ashamed of my family background. I also feared judgment and stigma from others. I began to lose a lot of weight in a short amount of time, eating only a couple hundred calories a day. And I began to dissociate from my feelings and emotions. Over time, I developed very scary out-of-body experiences that made me feel like a ghost. I couldn't taste, smell, or feel anything. Nothing elicited a response from me. I was completely numb to my senses, and I didn't know how to function. I later learned that these symptoms are called depersonalization, caused by severe trauma and depression. At the time, I didn't know what was happening to me, so I was deathly terrified. I thought about suicide constantly, every minute and every second of the day. I remember opening my eyes in the morning, wishing that I hadn't woken up, wishing that I could stay asleep so that I wouldn't have to face the pain. But I didn't have a plan. I couldn't form a plan because I still had my brother. He was only 8 years old at the time, so I couldn't leave him behind. I couldn't put him through the pain of grief and loss, knowing that I meant the world to him. I couldn't leave the burden of navigating the world all to himself, knowing that he needed my support as a special needs child from a broken family. So when my suicidality peaked during spring break, I took out $200 I had saved up in cash and found a counselor who saw me the same day. At the time, I didn't even know that mental health counseling was covered by insurance. Once I returned to school, I finally went to the counseling center for help with the support of a team of experienced professionals. I began medication and therapy. From then on, I started the long journey of healing and recovery. As with any journey, there were ups and downs. I had periods in which I felt completely recovered and stopped my medication altogether, and periods when I relapsed into severe depression and suicidality. There were times when I felt empowered by having lived through such difficult experiences, and there were times when I felt defective and broken beyond repair. But I never stopped moving towards recovery. Aside from medication and therapy, I spent years searching for ways to help myself. I read all the self-help books, podcasts, videos I could get my hands on, and learned as much as I could about strategies to cope with hopelessness and different ways to process trauma. Although I felt defective, there was a small part of me that was resilient and fearless. I asked myself, what if healing is possible? And it turns out that I was right. There is an end to suffering. Hope kept me moving forward. And what also helped was taking the time to learn about my cultural background, the important historical movements that impacted my family, the cultural values that were oppressive to me, and the hierarchical family system that were justification for violence and abuse. It wasn't until I started putting all the pieces together did I recognize that trauma is a major theme in my family. Being able to make sense of what happened and why they happened helped me make meaning out of those tragic experiences and allow me the freedom to move forward. Through the experience of treatment and self-healing, I discovered that my personal experiences could be a significant source of strength to others. So I chose to become a mental therapist myself to pay forward the kindness and support that I received in my recovery journey, and to care for others who are in similar situations. Right now, I'm currently in grad school, training to become a mental health clinician. I'm excited to make a difference in my community and to uplift families who are suffering in silence. I'm also very hopeful for my future, both professionally and personally. Although there will be more ups and downs in the future, I know that I have the ability to overcome them. My experiences have taught me the depths of human resilience and the tenacity of the human spirit. So I want to encourage you to also seek help if you're also facing mental health challenges or have a diagnosed mental illness. You're not alone.